Can I say something?
Yes.
I have wanted to watch a lot of movies where people were like, Madeline, don't watch it. It's triggering.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what does that mean? Promising Young Woman made me understand what it means for a movie to be triggering.
I think it was the most triggering piece of content I've ever watched. I would have never been able to watch it alone.
No, I would have.
In a million years.
I could barely watch it with you, remember? Like, I was like so close to turning it off constantly, like the whole time. Like,
but we were also so consumed by it. Like, it was some of the most gripping content I've ever seen.
From the first minute, I couldn't look away. But it was the most triggering thing I've ever seen. We both like were like, can we put on a happy movie afterwards? Like, we were
something silly.
It was like hard to shake it afterwards. Still to this day, I'm like,
anytime we talk about it, I feel my chest tighten up.
I feel sick to my stomach.
Like, I would never recommend the movie to someone else.
No,
but it was an incredible film
and so important. Like, I'm so glad it was made, but it is hard to watch. That being said, if you are someone who would be triggered by sexual assault, etc., wouldn't recommend it. But we did re-traumatize ourselves so that we could sit and do a scene-by-scene analysis for those of you who maybe don't want to or shouldn't watch it.
Yeah, it was also very validating while being triggering. I think those are your words. I thought you said that beautifully. And also, I didn't find any of the scenes like gratuitous again, like the substance.
No.
Like, everything felt like it had a purpose.
Completely necessary.
And it felt like the director was really trying to handle all these really intense themes with a lot of like grace, and they were well done. It was just like, you can't.
It should be hard to watch. It'd be weird if we were like, yay, after that movie.
It wasn't like a happy, silly,
no, lighthearted.
But there were moments where I was like laughing.
Yeah.
The dialogue was really good.
The dialogue, it was all perfect. It was such a perfect movie. It was really hard to watch, but it's also such a good vehicle to have conversations about other things. I think that's like one of the most important things of that film, I'm sure, is like the conversations people had afterwards with people in their lives, or even just like, for me, well, should we get into it?
I think we should start like scene 1.
Yeah, because
we have so much to say.
Scene 1 is, you see this extremely drunk girl.
Well, even before that,
the
opening shot of the movie is a bunch of men gyrating at a club, and it like zooms in on their hips.
True.
And it's kind of like gross and icky, and you're watching all these men in like button-down shirts dancing at a club,
being like a horny and weird. Yeah. And then we see those 3 guys at the bar chit-chatting, looking over at the drunk girl, making comments such as, what does she think's gonna happen when she acts like that? Like, this is why bad things happen to these girls.
And like,
she's asking for it.
If someone's dangerous, they're gonna take advantage of her.
If there was a bad guy here, something bad would happen to her. It's always, the theme of the film is like the good guy. Like, I love that.
Yeah,
because
the nice guy.
It
the
shows
self-proclaimed nice guy.
The nice guy. It shows it so well. And it literally starts with one of the guys what is his name? The actor? You like him?
Adam Brody. I love him so much, and he's always played such a lovable guy next door, sweet guy,
handsome, charming.
And it kind of shows the other 2 guys are like, should I go up to her or something? Yeah. And he's like, no, guys, like, let me take
I'll
this one.
Take care of it. It's very like, fine, I'm a nice guy and this stupid drunk girl is gonna get herself in some trouble, so I'll deal with it.
You know what I thought was happening at that scene was he was gonna go take care of her as to not have another guy like take advantage of her. Like, I thought he was gonna be able to like find her phone, get her home.
Me too.
Safely.
I thought it was gonna be like, oh, they're being a little bit crass, and like the whole she's asking for it conversation is obviously like painting them. It's just kind of showing the like locker room boys talk.
Totally.
But I did think it was going to lead to him like saving her and then feeling like the hero.
Absolutely.
I really did.
That's how they set it up.
That's how they set it up, which is again perfect, because if you've been in that situation, that is how it starts. You, of course, like, girls are not stupid, you know, like, men are so manipulative when they're going about these things, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like, it does feel like someone's gonna help you, and you want to believe that, because we're constantly like being fed this idea that there are nice guys, which I'm sure there are, and I don't want to have to keep saying throughout this video like not all men, because you get it, you know.
And I think that's like kind of now a reductive conversation of not all men, because we are also upholding this aside. And like the movie does that really well of like female bystanders, male bystanders. If you're not if you're silent, you are so complicit. Anyways, so he like goes up to her, he's like, oh, like, where's your phone? She's like, I don't know where my phone is. She's obviously really drunk. She's like, I don't know
like
where my
can't keep her
phone
eyes
is.
open, can't keep her head up, like like blackout drunk, lost her phone. He's like, how are you gonna get home? She's like, Uber. He's like, it's gonna be hard to Uber when you don't have your phone. Why don't I just give you a ride home? She's like, oh my god, thank you so much.
Next shot, they're in the Uber and they're starting to talk, and he's like, oh, my apartment's right up here. We could just stop by my place for a drink.
For a drink, mind you.
Mind you, she's, again, blackout
like,
drunk.
She's in the drive, sticking her head out the window. I feel like a lot of people have done that when it's like, okay, I'm gonna throw up, like I need like some fresh air, like I'm almost home, like she's unwell, there's no need. Right when he said we could stop at my apartment for another drink, I was like, oh, good.
Oh, that is when I start getting a little spooked. Oh, also keep in mind, we watched this movie the day after we watched The Substance, which is like a horror film, body horror, like blood, gore. That I was fine. I was like eating my way through that movie. This movie, the entire time, I felt like I was gonna vomit in the toilet.
It was so terrifying.
Vomit in the toilet.
Yeah, for clarification.
Vomit in the toilet.
And is this movie categorized as a horror movie?
It's called like a revenge movie. It's not really called horror. To me, it was the most horrifying film I've ever seen.
Me too.
So there was that.
Way more than The Substance.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So yeah, the car, he kind of reveals himself as like, wait, my apartment's already on the way. Like, let's just get a drink. She, again, is incoherent. Like, she's not making decisions for herself. Like, he's not really asking. He's kind of telling her.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
They get to his apartment. He's making drinks. He pours himself a tiny bit of alcohol. He fills a glass of alcohol for her. Ew. Like, that.
Ew.
Guys.
At this point, we are starting to lose it. We're both getting squirmy.
I'm like, the feeling I felt the whole time I was watching that movie was rage. Female rage. Like, since, like, I can't shake it.
I wasn't even feeling angry at that point. I was honestly feeling so spooked.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what is
pissed.
he about to do? And, like, I've seen so much media with Adam Brody, and to me, he's, like, such a nice guy.
When it very first opened, you went, oh my god, I love him.
Love him.
Which
I was
is...
like, that's my type. Like,
yeah.
I love
literally.
Adam
Which
Brody.
was incredible on the filmmaking
casting
part.
Throughout the movie really is, like, a big deal.
Like, it's important. And we'll get there, I guess.
It's very intentional. Because I think the director wants you to feel, like, on his side almost. You're kind of rooting for Adam Brody. And then slowly he's like pouring her that drink, he's getting on the couch with her, he's moving, he's like inching closer to her, and you start to feel your bile rise. Like, it's actually disgusting.
I am gonna cry in this episode. Like, I can't. It's so hard. It's so hard. Like, he starts kissing her and she's not kissing back because, again, she's almost asleep by how drunk she is. Like, she's almost unconscious.
Yeah.
And he's kissing her, and when she can't kiss back, he decides to kiss her neck. And then she's like, wait, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. I need to go lay down. And he's like, oh, perfect. Let's go lay in my bed. So then they go to his bedroom. She lays down. He, like, lays on top of her.
Already, I'm freaking out.
Oh, my God. I kept looking at Maul kept looking at me and being like, should we turn it off? Because my face, I was freaking out. It was so hard to watch. He gets on top of her. She's like, I need to lay down, as in, like, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
He's taking it as, ooh, we're laying down. He's kissing her neck. He goes down, like, lifts up her shirt, starts kissing her tummy. It's disgusting.
Then he, like, takes her underwear off. And she's, like, slurring her words. She's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's kind of like, wait, I don't feel good. Hold on, I don't feel good. What are you doing? And he's just like, shh. It's fine. It's okay. You're safe. I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, he does keep saying you're safe. I also thought it was really interesting that they show him taking her underwear off in a, like, almost to insinuate he's going to, like, give, and I'm using huge quotes when I say it's, like, give her pleasure. Because the nice guys always think, like, I'm doing it for her. Like, they love to have that mask I'm going to make you feel good. And it's,
I feel like I'm going to cry.
No, it's,
sorry.
This movie was so hard.
Sorry, I'm freaking out.
We can also stop recording.
No. I think it's fine. I don't know why. This scene was the hardest for me to watch. Like, I can't. I can't do it. I'm so dramatic when we film these. I just like,
no, this is not dramatic at all.
Sorry. It was just like really hard to watch. Ugh, it makes me feel sick.
This was a sickening scene. It's horrible.
I just think that like, okay, so that's when like the whole plot kicks in.
Because she's saying like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And she's slurring her words. And then she suddenly sits up. She looks him dead in the eyes and goes, what are you doing? In a very coherent, sober way. And then you as the audience realize,
oh shit,
she
isn't drunk, maybe
she's sober,
and like you're
and
like
angry.
Thank fucking God, because
yeah,
I don't know how much more of that we would have had to stop it if that was actually like, I was like, this is too much. And then,
well, can I say something else crazy? Before we started watching it, I was like, because you had told me I really want to watch this movie, I was like, can I just look up the IMDb like parental control rating?
Because I told you, I was like, I've always wanted to watch this, but people tell me it will trigger me, but I don't care. I want to watch it with you.
Yeah.
And you were like, okay, well, let's just like look up.
Let's look up like what does that mean? People on IMDb were so lax about it. They were like, kind of insinuates at some point that there has been sexual assault. Girl, what? That is not
insinuates. I watched it happen.
Yeah.
I'm getting so freaked out.
I guess they were saying because at that point he didn't actually.
I guess you don't watch it happen, but like
you watch everything leading up to it.
It is still like was so horrible. Insane, yeah. It's horrible to watch.
And you as a viewer feel out of control like the victim does. Like they really put you in her body. It was really intense.
It's really well done, but it's really fucking hard to watch. But then when she sits up, you're kind of like, oh, thank God. Thank fucking God. And the fear in his eyes when he realizes that she is coherent, which again is terrifying because that implies he knew that she didn't want this. He knew that she was not able to speak for herself or advocate for herself, and he was totally fine with that. But as soon as she shows that she is sober, in control, he freaks out.
Yeah, and the scene cuts, and then it says like promising young woman, like, and that is when the movie starts. So we're immediately set up for like kind of an intense film.
Like what the fuck?
Yeah,
it was crazy. And should we even just talk about the name "Promising Young Woman"? I think it's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
I guess we can get there because it kind of comes in with everything.
Yeah.
But I guess so. This is our second movie video, and we're kind of just like giving our thoughts as we go. So I'm gonna do that because I have a lot of thoughts on that first scene.
Oh, go.
That scene was like the hardest for me to watch, and I think the reason I keep saying like it was so triggering, but it was so validating, is because like that was seen like minute by minute what has happened to me in my life. Like didn't end well, but it was so like hard to watch. Sorry, I know I shouldn't be talking about this. I don't even mean to. It's just
you don't have to talk about it.
No, it just feels like one of those things where if you told someone afterwards, people don't, it's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Or like there's no clear cut, like you're in an alley and a stranger takes you and is holding a knife to your throat and you're screaming no. Like it's not like that.
And the fact that she never says like no explicitly, literally, but she says things like,
what are you doing? What are you doing? It's very clear to everyone, including him, that she cannot be given consent at that moment.
Yeah.
So it's like it was so validating for me because to this day I'm like, did something bad happen to me? Was it that bad? Was it my fault? Did I ask for it? Did I say no clearly enough? Like, so it was so validating because watching that, any sane person is like, oh my God, this is horrible. Yeah. Like, it's horrible to watch. So I was like, oh my God, that was so validating. And I think we might have to turn it off and I have to call my therapist because that was a lot. Like, oh, it was horrible. But I'm sure, I mean, like, every woman I know has a story like that.
And I really, again, when I say words like liked, I didn't like the scene, obviously. But I think it was important for the director, and the writer-director is the same person, right? I think it was important for her to show that, like, coercion counts. Yeah, like that counts. And I almost liked that she didn't say no. Ugh. I liked that she said it. I liked
that he was painting it out like he was gonna give her pleasure. Yeah, because I think that's another common thing. And you're like, oh, it is so blurry, but it's really not. The lines are really not that blurry.
I think that's what the director did. It showed you that all these things that people say are so blurry, and like if she was drunk, like, you know, it must have been like
how could he know? How could he know she didn't want it? How could he know she couldn't be given consent?
And as a viewer, you're just like so obviously like, oh my God, stop, dude. Like,
it's
she's
horrible.
telling you to stop, like, stop. And as a viewer, you feel violated as a viewer.
I felt disgusted. I wanted to throw up.
Afterwards, we were both like, I need to like take a shower. Like, I'm feeling gross. Yeah.
Oh my God, sorry. I don't think I'll cry anymore. I had to get that. I'm so sorry. Feel bad. Oh, it's been brewing in me.
Podcast.
Okay, you're right. Oh, it's just like, it really gets me. I don't mean to be fucking crying. It's just like so hard. It's such a heavy topic. You're left to wonder.
The director, I think, wants you to think, like, what does she do after she says, what are you doing? Is she killing these men?
I thought she was killing them.
I thought she was killing them as well.
And I was like, yes.
And then cut to, she's in her parents' house. It's obvious her parents are like, so what are your plans? Like, it was her birthday that day.
Her 30th birthday. Her mom is Jennifer Coolidge.
Mom is like giving her a birthday present, which is a suitcase. So it's like, obviously they want her to move out.
Please move out.
Which is like a little goofy. There's little moments of levity in the
movie.
Totally.
100%. Yeah. And you are kind of like, there's so many questions. Like, why does she live at home at 30? Why is she doing this with these men? Is she killing them? Like, you're so confused.
And they're just kind of setting the scene of her life. Like, she goes up to her bedroom and she writes she has this journal with a scrunchie wrapped around it. And she like writes his name and adds a tally. And you can see above that tally, there's like
so
100
many
other tallies.
So many tallies. There's like pages and pages.
Again, I'm thinking this is her kill list.
Me too. And I was like, damn, she got away with a lot of murder, because that's a really high number.
Yeah. And you're locked. You're completely locked in.
You're locked because you want to know.
And then it shows you her work life. So she works in this coffee shop, and it kind of feels like very Hannah Montana-esque, very Double Life.
Totally.
Because she has this like very like vigilante, like big costumes and big hair and like lipstick, and
True.
She has this completely different getup at night, and she's doing something that we still have like a little bit of a question mark about, but it's obviously something dark and like depressing,
right,
and obviously traumatizing
and very planned. Like it's very calculated. Like she's super calculated about it all, because she's an amazing actor. You would have no idea that she was pretending to be drunk. Like it was crazy.
Versus her day life is like her at this like bright white coffee shop,
just like a young girl working at a coffee shop. Also, like, something we both loved about this movie is she has this very like feminine aesthetic. Like she always wears like this little ribbon in her hair's tied back. She wears like little pastel frilly outfits and dresses. Like she comes off as very innocent
during the day, like when she's herself. And it is also really interesting because I was thinking about that with trauma, where a lot of people who have like very traumatic things happen to them kind of revert to a younger age,
and they like
and that's like the whole thing with Kiss too, is like that like young girlhood, they try to reclaim that
and like
period.
nurture her and go back,
because they keep showing her colorful nails, her ribbons, her,
she has her
outfits.
Wait, that's so true. It was very she has this very clear like connection to her inner child. Oh, that's actually so sad. That makes it even sadder.
Yeah.
And I think it also could show how like women deal with such horrific things and yet are meant to like tie a ribbon in their hair and have a presentable face and just keep it quiet in the world, and just no one would ever know. No one would look at her and know the horrible things she's been through, which is true for like most people, but still it's really powerful, I think.
Yeah. And she's at the coffee shop working, and who walks in but Bo Burnham,
another Hollywood nice guy.
Everyone loves him, and he is immediately off the bat so charming and funny and sweet, and is like, oh my God, Cassie. And he recognizes her, and he's like, I haven't heard of you, or haven't heard from you since you dropped out of med school.
Oh yeah, you kind of disappeared.
So that's how the viewer learns, like, wait, so she was in med school and now she's working in this coffee shop. And then he's like, what are you doing here? Or he says something which is kind of obviously like a little bit of a dig at her career,
right? And
it's obvious that he's like made it through med school and is now a doctor. And he's immediately like, sorry, I didn't mean it like that, you know, kind of goes back on it. And
she has this very like, she has a guard up with everyone.
Totally.
You can feel it. She's so tense. She's so waiting for people to hurt her. It's really sad. And Bo Burnham's character, Ryan? His name is Ryan.
Yeah.
He like really is disarming with that aspect of her. Like, I don't remember exactly what prompted it, but she like spits in his coffee and he like chugs it to prove a point. And I think that kind of loosens her up where she's like, oh, he can take it. Like he can handle my defensiveness.
Yeah, totally. And I wrote in my notes, like, it was almost the semblance of hope and normalcy in the story, because she sees him, they're kind of flirting, and it's like, wait, is this story going to move forward? At this point, I'm thinking the movie is going to be about how she deals with sexual trauma in like a romantic relationship. That's what I'm thinking. At this point, what were you thinking?
I had known spoilers already.
Oh.
Which kind of sucked. I wish I didn't.
Sucks.
So I was I was a little bit tainted there, but I was still like, I didn't know exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, wait, loving his character, loving their moment. Like, you're rooting for Cassie. Like, you want her to find happiness.
Also, at this point, you say, like, I'm into Bo Burnham. And
oh, yeah.
So for a moment, I was distracted. I was like, oh, interesting that this is the man that you're like.
I am into Bo Burnham. I think he's so, like, his whole thing is, like, he's a feminist. He's so woke. Like, he is so brill. He's brilliant. He's so smart. I love that. Funny Feeling is, like, I think one of the best songs ever. Like, I think he's so brilliant. So, and he's dating Phoebe Bridgers. So, like, if he's good enough for her, he's good enough for me.
Totally.
I'm super into Bo Burnham. So I was, and he kind of plays himself. A lot of the men kind of play themselves. Like, it was like his sense of humor.
Yes,
his,
it was almost like he wrote his lines.
Literally, like, it was so him. So you're like, oh my god, Bo Burnham, like, love him. Great.
Yeah, I was thinking at this point, like, oh, is romance going to be too hard for her because she's so consumed by her mission?
And she's like tainted, like she thinks all men are bad, but then the message would be like, not all men.
I know, I was a little worried that's where it was going,
right?
But I was also like, okay, fine.
Yeah, because you want rom-com. Like, you want the best for Cassie. I hope she finds her man. So
also, her boss at the coffee shop is Laverne Cox,
who I love,
who I am obsessed with, and like plays that kind of like role so well of a protector. She's like, really cares about Cassie. You can tell, and she's like, I'll put you in touch with someone who can get you a different job. And Cassie's like, no, I like working here at this coffee shop. And you can tell her boss like wants better for her, like
as a
knows
person.
Her potential, like wants her to get back out there, get back on the horse. She kind of like sees him flirting. She's like, okay, like her character was so good at also moving the plot forward.
Totally. Oh, I loved her. Yeah, she was super great in that. Yeah. So guys, this is the kiss version of this movie. So like, don't like, this is our retelling of the story and our thoughts. Okay.
This is also, we didn't take notes because we were so locked into the movie that some scenes might be out of order, and that's like just the tax you have to pay to hear it from us. I'm so sorry.
So sorry, but we're really doing our best. Also, like, it was, I kind of blocked some of it out of my memory. So I think she goes home from work and she starts putting on this like heavy black eyeliner. And she always goes into this like vigilante role with this red lipstick on. Yeah. But then she smudges it, which is it to show that she's like incoherent and drunk. Totally. So she's like, her doing her makeup it's looking like a mess on purpose.
Yeah. And the makeup is almost like symbolism for which version of Cassie she is.
Totally.
Is she the like kind of nighttime dominatrix vibe, or this daytime like sweet girlhood? Yeah.
Yeah. So she goes to another club.
They show her this time not in the club but in this like guy's apartment, but we infer what happens is that she'd gone to the club. He was like, let me take you home or whatever.
Same thing. Yeah. And yeah, so she's sitting on his like couch or something. And
another insane scene.
Oh, insane scene, you guys. It is so hard to watch because it is so real. That is the horror of it, is like, this is like an everyday occurrence.
That's why I was so much more scared than The Substance, because that was like sci-fi feeling. This was just so on the nose. Like, every man in this movie was like a man I know in real life.
Like, not even exaggerated. Like, the writing was so good and the men played the roles so well. Yeah. I don't know who that man was, the second one. I don't know the actor.
I don't know either, but he acted perfectly because you're repulsed by him.
He is like a man who's like writing a novel, and he's like a very red pill Reddit. He was just giving like incel vibes. And he kept like, it was so perfect because, for example, she would be like, I need a glass of water, and as he's turned away from her, the camera catches him being like, oh my god, like, stupid fucking bitch. Like, he hates women, but he wants to have sex.
Oh, of course.
It's so
and he's
infuriating.
Putting on this like nice guy act to get laid,
but he can barely hide it. Like, he is like, every minute that they aren't having sex, he's like rolling his eyes like clock is ticking.
At some point, he like does a line of cocaine and then gives it to her and she's like, I can't. And then he takes, this was to me like one of the worst scenes. He like takes some of the powder and shoves it in her mouth. Oh my God.
Like so fucking dehumanizing to watch him put his dirty fingers in her mouth and unconsensually. Disgusting. She's saying, I don't want to do the coke. And he's forcefully putting it in her mouth. Oh. Allegedly, I mean, you can assume to sober her up so she can at least have her eyes open while they're having sex.
Oh, is that what it does?
Yeah, coke kind of sobers you up. I've never done it. I don't know. Like, actually.
No, I don't even know anything about it.
But I've heard that people are like, oh, you're too drunk, do a little coke. So I think that's what it was.
That is insane. I also, like, just inferred that it, like, goes in through your bloodstream. Okay.
Yeah. And then, like, she, like, asks for water. He gets her the water reluctantly because he's like, oh, my God, she's being so annoying.
When he comes back with the glass of water, she's, like, quote unquote passed out. Like you can see she puts her head down to like look passed out, and he comes out and he's like, you can see on his face so angry that she's asleep, and then goes, hey, and like wakes her up.
Yeah, he's like slapping her in the face. He's like being so aggressive to wake her up, and then he's finally like, hey, and she's like, and then he goes, you're so beautiful. Oh, keep in mind at the beginning, Adam Brody had also said that, like, you're so beautiful. Which is another, like, so realistic. Like, men are so fucking, ugh.
This is how you know a woman wrote it, because it is so incredibly real. Like, every line was exactly how men speak.
Exactly how it happens. I don't think a man would know that, like, when these men are about to sexually assault you, they think they're, like, buttering you up, or is this their way of seducing you? They're like, you know, you're really pretty. Okay, I'm blackout drunk, you fucking weirdo. Like, so it was the whole, like, you know, you're so beautiful, like, let me kiss you.
No, and then before that, he's like, we have a real connection. He says that.
We have a real connection. Yeah.
And then he, like, starts to kiss her, and she's like, no, I don't want to. And she does the same thing she'd done with the Adam Brody character. I don't know any of these men's name. And she, like, shows that she's sober. And he freaks out. He's like, are you sober? He says that. And she goes, yeah, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
And I thought that was so well done, because I don't think I've ever heard someone say it like that. Like, isn't it a good thing that I'm sober?
Right.
Isn't this what you want? Isn't this your best case scenario? If it's not your best case scenario, you're the weirdo.
Right. And it's kind of like when men, I don't know, if you're watching some kind of weird one of those like shows about catching predators, and the man like finds out it's actually a girl of age, and then he's disappointed. It's like, oh, so shouldn't it be a good thing that I'm 18?
Yeah.
Isn't it a good thing I'm sober? Like, it is so fucking sick and twisted, and it's so little. And that's when she says, at least you woke me up.
Most guys don't.
And
this is when the viewer also learns what she does, because he is also freaking out. He's like, I'm a good guy, I swear. What do you want from me? What do you want? You want money? You want me to, what do you want?
You want me to admit it? You want me to admit I'm a pervert? And she's like, are you? I don't know.
Yeah. And that scene, I think, is like really well acted on both parts, so well written. And you can tell, like, he is freaking out because he thinks he's like getting caught, you know? And he's like, I swear I'm a good person. Like, and she, on the other hand, is like kind of explaining to the viewer, like, this is almost a vehicle for us to understand what's going on, where she goes because she says, like, I go week after week, pretend I am blackout drunk at a bar, and every week someone takes me home. So we learn, like, that's what she's been doing. And I don't know, I just got chills watching that part.
This scene was a bit more gratifying than the first time, because A, you know what's happening, like, thank God, and B, you get to see this like moment of kind of lecturing him. It's like, that's like my wet dream. I would love to be in a room with a fucking incel and just like force them to like look in the mirror almost. And it's so funny, not even funny, like interesting that all of the men in these situations act like they've been framed. Right?
Yes.
Like totally. She set them up as if they weren't doing something bad.
Yeah.
As if they didn't do it. You know what? I just found that so interesting, because men can really do these mental gymnastics to like still be the good guy always in every situation.
I was hoping at this scene that her coffee shop gig was like a daytime gig, and her nighttime was like someone who works with the police, maybe, to like find these men.
Yeah.
At this point, I learned that it was just her like going and giving them a lecture. And I was literally telling Madeline, I was like, A, it's surprising that none of these men get violent, because that feels unrealistic, because men are so violent. And then B, I I forgot what I was gonna say.
That's okay. I think that, like,
every time we talk about this movie, we're like,
both of our brains are.
I think because it was, my brain blocked parts.
It's actually traumatizing. Like, actually, it's I can't. It's like not even fun to talk about, really, but it is a good view. It's an important conversation to have.
I think that's why it's good that we're talking about it. I also think a lot of people won't watch the movie because it's so triggering. So hopefully this is a less triggering way to consume the media.
Hopefully. I mean, I would rather hear people talk about it than have to watch it. It was a lot. But I just love, like, how well it shows male ego, because men have such a clear vision of themselves in their head and that they're a good guy. And having them confront that and, like, whether or not that's true is so interesting, because they get so, like, violent and riled up and angry. Like, they cannot take accountability for their actions. And it's so hard for them to wrap their heads around the fact that them or their friends have ever done anything bad.
Yeah, that was my B. I remember I told you at the scene, like, I feel like bad men or men who would do something like this wouldn't learn from a woman just being like, giving them a slap on the wrist. I don't think they would change their behavior.
That's
Am I
the
crazy?
hardest part. That's what is so upsetting when you're watching it. It's like, this girl's just traumatizing herself, and I fear
every week
it's really not having an impact. I don't think. Like,
yeah, that's I think what was so hard about it.
Yeah, it's bad. But that one was it's just so fun. The male characters are so men you've met in real life. Like, perfectly done.
So then the next day, she's back at work at the coffee shop. Bo Burnham's character, Ryan, comes in and he's like, did you give me a fake number? And she's like, yeah. Like, you know, she's kind of not really stoked about seeing him, but she's a little flirty with him still. Like, that's the vibe.
I think she's a little impressed he comes back and he's being persistent. And, like, I'm sure a part of her is feeling wanted.
Flattered. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this time he's a bit more insistent on, like...
But he's like, you know, like, my bad. Like, okay, we're even now, because, like, they're kind of bantering.
They're bantering.
As a viewer, you're kind of, like, giggling. Like, you're like, okay. Like, this is also making you... Or at least when I was watching this, I was feeling, like, rooting for him. Like, he's pulling her out of this kind of dark place. They start dating. There's, like, almost a montage of scenes of them in parks, and they're hanging out, and he comes to the coffee shop after work, and she goes to his workplace and is sort of like, yeah, I'll go on a date with you. And they're dating. They're dating. They're fully dating.
Oh, yeah.
They have, like, a scene in the coffee shop with Laverne Cox's character where they're all sort of joking around. She ends up leaving, and she almost makes a joke like, you know, don't screw on the coffee beans or something like that.
Like, clean the counters if you're gonna be nasty in here.
So you're kind of like, okay, they're dating.
You're loving
like fully in it.
And I will say, like, I don't know if you felt the same way, but in the beginning when they first start dating, I think there's a scene where, like, he is walking her home, but his home is on the way or something. And I'm like, please, God, don't let this happen right now again. Like, I was kind of always in the back of my mind this scared voice of, like, is something bad gonna happen? Because it sets you up for that, you know?
Yes, that's what happens, where they're going on a walk for one of their dates, and they end up walking to his apartment. He's like, oh, this is my apartment. Do you want to come up for a drink? And she's kind of a little unsure. And then she goes, okay, yeah, maybe. But you can tell she didn't really want to. And he's like, oh, sorry, like, we don't have to do it if you don't want to.
I misread this. I only want you to if you want to. And you're like, oh, okay.
Okay, good guy.
Thank God. Yeah. And I think she's also having oh, okay.
But then she leaves. And the next day she goes to his workplace and she's like, I do want to go on a date.
Yeah.
And it's sweet. You're kind of rooting for her. You're like, she's so traumatized, but this will be good for her. Like, she needs to get back on the horse. And everyone is telling her, like, we miss you. We want to see you dating. We want to see you having a life. Like, her parents are really bummed when she didn't have any plans on her birthday. So you kind of, as a viewer, are like, yay, okay, she has plans now. She's going out. And she looks all cute when she goes on dates with him. Like, she wears a dress. And you can tell her dad is so stoked to, like, see her dressed up and going out. And the mom is like, have fun.
Yeah.
It's so
the parents
so
are watching TV and she's leaving and they're like, where are you going? She's like, a date. And the dad's like, you look really beautiful, Cass. And I'm like, oh, I was gonna cry, because you can feel everyone's like, wait, yay, like, she's gaining her life back. Like, the sparkle's coming back. It's so sweet. You're so rooting for them. And it's almost like she's, like, testing him, and he keeps passing the test. And you're like, thank God. Good guy.
And every time there is a test, you kind of feel yourself clench.
Waiting for it. Yes. And then he always passes. And you're like, oh, thank God. Thank God.
And then one day they're all at the coffee shop. Or not all of them, just the two of them, I think, are at the coffee shop. And he is like, are you in touch with anyone from med school? And she's like, nope, not at all. And he's like, oh, like, I can't seem to shake them off, insinuating, like, I hang out with them all the time. And this acting in the scene is so well done because you can tell she's slowly getting more and more uncomfortable as they're talking about people in the med school.
Yes. That was such a cool scene. I was thinking, oh my God, I keep pushing the fucking mute button. Okay, sure. Everyone, sorry. No, we're good. I'm going to stop.
Hold it. Yeah.
It's not muted. I'm going to sit on my hands.
Good.
Yeah, there's a really cool scene where as soon as Bo Burnham mentions a specific name of someone that he's still friends with from med school, Cassie's acting is so cool because you see in her eyes that it's like jogged a memory, but she's still having a full-blown conversation with him. And I feel like as a woman, there have been so many times where like, not even like, you could feel like danger or like something like triggers something for you, but you have to act normal and you're still having a conversation, but half your brain is like completely elsewhere. And I think they put this like buzzing or something to kind of further that. Like, and it's almost impressive that she's still having the conversation when she's completely having another thought, and you're like, what is it? What is she thinking?
And you can tell that guy's name, the name he said was Al. You can see that that's like kind of a trigger name for her.
As soon as it happens, she's like elsewhere in her
head.
And
he's like, do you remember Madison? And she's like, nope, I never hung out with Madison. He's like, really? I could have sworn the three of you used to always hang out, you, Madison, and Nina. And earlier we had seen in her childhood bedroom a picture of Cassie and Nina, and they're like young girls, and it's like a little girl's frame. It says like Cassie and Nina and like glitter, and in the entire movie she's wearing a necklace which is like a half heart necklace, so you can tell that like she has a best friend. It's insinuated that Nina is no longer with us. And like the entire movie, we never ever see Nina other than that one photo of her as a child, which I think is very important because it's a little bit like, why is no one talking about Nina? You know?
Right.
And he, while talking to her, is like, really? I could have sworn you three always hung out. Like, you hung out with Madison. And she's like, nope. She
don't know what you're talking about.
She's like, no. Right? And then the next scene is she is on like a knockoff Facebook.
Yeah.
And looking up Madison. And the scene after that is they're out to lunch.
Madison shows up. And Madison is
played by Alison Brie.
This like beautiful put together businesswoman. And before she gets there, Cassie orders a bottle of champagne and a ginger ale. And she pours the ginger ale in her glass, throws away the can, and is like feeding Madison alcohol. Like they slowly are showing this lunch go on, and Madison's like, another bottle of wine, another bottle. She's getting sloshed. And we can assume Cassie is like not really drinking, and she's seeming very coherent the whole time. And you can also tell Madison's kind of like, why did you invite me? Like, this is kind of random.
We haven't talked since you dropped out of med school.
I'm sure she's also kind of drinking because you're like, this is weird. I don't know you. I don't know what to say. Like, she's uncomfortable. And Cassie makes sure she's pretty belligerent before she says, like, so I want to ask you a question. Do you ever think about what happened? And Madison's like, what happened?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
She's like, with Nina. She's like, oh, that? No, I never think about that. Cassie's like, really? You never think about that? And she's like, no, we were kids. We were so young. Like, it's...
And she says, and you know Nina always got so drunk.
Yeah.
You never know. When you get that drunk, you never know what could happen to you.
Yeah, she's like, I mean, come on. Nina was always fucking everyone. She was always drunk.
And the juxtaposition of that and, like, her at that point being so drunk was really well shot, really well done.
Yeah, totally.
Like, she's, like, spilling things on the table as she's saying, if you get that drunk, you don't know what's going to happen
You're
to you.
You're asking for it, literally.
And, like, yeah, sometimes women are complicit in the harm of other women. You can tell that they are talking about this assault that happened when they were all in med school together with this level of, like, Cassie is like, that affected me and Nina so deeply. How come it didn't affect you?
How come you got to just get away with it? And everything is talked about, kind of talked around. Like, there's no, like, at this point, super explicit explanation of, like, what happened to Nina or what happened in college. But you can kind of, like, put the pieces together. And Madison...
you can tell that Madison never really believed that...
Well, that's what it is. Like, I think Cassie is, like, now that you're a grown woman, are you sorry? Like,
a grown woman with 2 kids, mind you.
Like, I think that's kind of what she was looking for, was like almost an apology, or like a, oh my god, that was messed up,
or I was guilt,
something, like
shame,
she was anything, like she was. And Madison was like, no, I don't believe her. Like, you could tell that Madison didn't believe her then, and she was kind of like, I still don't believe her
now,
like,
and I don't think about it,
and I
almost
don't think
like
about it.
Rub the wound
Salt
and make
in the
it
wound.
hurt.
It was. And you can see Cassie growing increasingly frustrated. And at some point she walks away.
She puts Madison says, like, hey, let's just forget it, okay? I'll pay for lunch. Like, paying for a lunch is gonna make like years and years of trauma go away.
Totally. Because Cassie's getting more and more confrontational, and Madison is kind of acting like those guys where when they're forced to confront this version or part of themselves they don't like, they're doing anything to make it go away. Wait, let me just pay for lunch. Let's just stop talking about this.
Yes.
It's fine.
Yes.
I'll get it. No worries.
Exactly.
And Cassie puts the money down. She's like, you know what?
She puts money down, walks away, and then we see her go up to the bar of the restaurant and talk to a guy, and she's like, she's staying in room 501 or whatever. Like, and that's her. Like, she's really drunk. She's staying in room 501.
And like slips him some cash.
And the scene ends. And we as viewers are like, what is he about to do to her?
Fuck? This is when it started to lose me, because I was like, please tell me Cassie did not pay that man to sexually assault her, because I get it, the wanting to get revenge for Nina, but I would never put another woman through that. And it's just like in the first scene where you're left to wonder, you don't know exactly what happened. So the man goes up to her, and then the scene ends. And each time she goes back to her notebook and she like writes a name down and she crosses it out. So she's almost going through people. I was thinking of it almost as like a 13 Reasons Why sort of idea, where she's going through and like confronting all these people. So the next person she confronts is, before she confronts the person, we see her driving up to a school. Oh my god.
This was an insane part of the movie.
And you're like, what business does she have being at a school? Rolls down her window to talk to this group of young girls, and she's like, hey, can you guys please help me with directions? My phone is dead. And they're being very like, oh my god, like, no,
random lady, no. Yeah,
like, we're busy, we're chit-chatting. And she's like, sorry, I'm just like, I'm a makeup artist and I'm doing the makeup for this music video, like, it's really important. And the girl's like, well, what music video? And she says the name of some boy band who's like made up.
And you can tell she obviously researched what this young girl was into, because this young girl happens to be a super fan of that boy band.
And she's like, you're she's like screaming, like, think like peak One Direction vibes. Totally. Like, she's screaming, she's like, you're joking, I love them, please, 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 I'll do anything, take me with you, I won't tell any. And she says, okay, fine, but, or I think the girl offers up her phone. She's like, you cannot post anyone, you can't tell anything, it's highly confidential. She's like, here, take my phone as proof, I just want to be there, I don't care. And she's like, okay, fine, takes her phone, they drive away.
At this point, I'm freaking out, because she's like doing something with this young girl.
Because we know she's not a makeup artist. We know none of this is true. So yeah, it's like, and you also,
and we're like, how is this young girl related to everything?
Right, you have no idea, because she is way too young to have anything to do with like the college thing.
Yeah.
So it's so confusing. And it was also after the Madison scene, so you're like, oh, is this woman evil? Like, is she hurting people? Like, you start to get scared, and then it again leaves us with like, we don't know what happens, and we end up at a college. She's in a waiting room at a college, and you see signs that are like, your future is waiting for you, and it's like very stereotypical, like,
and it's the forest that Ryan had brought up, that or not the college, the like med school they'd gone to. And she walks into the dean's office, and the dean is a woman, the Dean Walker, I think. And she got the meeting because she said, I would like to resume med school. So as a viewer, you're thinking, okay, maybe like Ryan got her to want to pursue med school again, right? You don't know. And she sits down and she's like, yeah, I had to drop out of.
Well, she's like, this is so unusual. This doesn't really happen. And Cassie's like, well, do you remember why I dropped out? And Dean Walker's like, sorry, I have a lot of students. Like, no, I don't remember. And she's like, well, do you remember what happened to Nina?
She said, do you remember the allegations against Al, and now, of course, and then the dean is like, oh yeah, Al is one of our best alums, like he's here for talks all the time, like everyone is doting on Al.
Because I think she brings up Nina first and she doesn't remember her, but then she brings up the man. She's like, oh my god, love him, he's great. Dismisses Nina's her case and like doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't remember. She's like, you know, we get allegations every day, like how am I supposed to remember one? We literally get these all the time.
I know, and you're supposed to be like, oh, you get them all the time? Oh no,
it's like crazy the way she's so nonchalant, like, oh my god, we get them all the time.
I thought it was a phenomenal decision to make the dean a woman, because I was thinking about how often when you think of like a dean of a med school, you do think of a guy, and so for a woman to get that job, she has to kind of align herself with certain ideals.
Totally.
Right? Like I was thinking a lot about like who do you have to ally yourself with in spaces like academia. Like I'm in academia. It is a very deeply like misogynistic space, I think, because of like a lot of these old institutions, and like Title IX is an absolute nightmare. So you're battling all of those feelings, and you can tell that Dean Walker is very dismissive.
So like doesn't want to be having this conversation. But Cassie does give us more information. She's like, oh, Nina was raped by a group of boys at this school. And Dean Walker says, why didn't she report it? And she says she did. And she said, to who? She said, to you.
To you.
And then it's like,
I'm getting goosies.
I just got goosies too. And then she's confronted again. Like the theme of this movie is like everyone's being confronted with this part of themselves.
Because they were all complicit in this.
They were all complicit. And you don't think of it that way until it is blasted in your face.
And here you learn that Nina dropped out after that incident and Cassie dropped out with her. It's just some of the lines she says are so bone chilling, because she said like, I couldn't do that to a young boy's future.
Yeah, it is so stereotypical. She's literally like,
great time to talk about the title of the film.
Yes, Promising Young Woman. So famously, people love to say, oh, he's a promising young man. Isn't that like the whole trope of it all? Like, and it's often used in context of like, well,
let's not ruin his life.
Like, they're kids. It was a mistake. He's a promising young man. He has so much in his future.
Everyone keeps saying they were kids. Like, med school, you have to be above, like, 23. Like, you're literally not going in as a kid.
That's the thing. And that's why I love in Would've, Could've, Should've, Taylor Swift also does a play on words where she says promising grown man. Because they're always given excuses. And it's like, no, you're a grown-up.
They're always given benefit of doubt.
And that's the line she says as well. It's like, well, I have to give them benefit of doubt. But no one gives benefit of doubt to the young girl saying, I was just raped, I need help.
And she's like, well, was Nina drinking? So there's again this like victim blame placed on her.
And then Cassie says, well, what if it was your daughter? And she says, my daughter wouldn't be in that kind of situation. She's like, that's so interesting, because I actually just dropped her off and she's in that same room. She's in the dorm room that it happened to Nina. And you see this like fear wash over Dean Walker's face, and she's like, what the fuck did you do to my daughter? She's like, what are you saying?
She immediately calls her daughter, and the phone rings in his pocket.
And then she's like, please tell me what room. And she's like, you would have known if you remembered what happened to Nina. And so she's scrambling. She's trying to figure this out. And you
can see, like, everyone's acted so well. The writing is so good. But you see in her face, like, the color is draining out of her face. It's almost like a rope is tightening around her neck. Because when it's her daughter, she wants to protect her daughter.
Now she has empathy. The empathy is kicking in. It took all of this for her to understand how fucked up that is.
It reminded me a lot of when we talk about stories like this. And we talk to men, we talk to women, we have to be like, imagine if they were your sister, your daughter, your girlfriend, your wife. Like, why can't you have empathy for humans without having to place them as, like, close to you? Like yours. Why can't you just extend your empathy? It was that's what it reminded me of.
And I did love that it was a woman, because women are complicit in these things as well. Like, often. Like, I loved that casting choice and, like, all of it. It was so well done.
And to climb ladders like that, you have to be complicit in certain things. It's like there is no such thing as an ethical billionaire, right? Like, it kind of reminded me of that.
Totally. Yeah. It was, so then, obviously, like, it's revealed that was who that young girl was. She has her phone. She gives her the phone and she's like, she'll probably need this. She leaves. Cassie doesn't really give a fuck what happens from there.
And she goes to a third location. And at this point, you're expecting the third person to also dismiss the case like everyone else has done.
Mm-hmm.
But the door opens. It's this older looking man. And she kind of says like...
Doesn't he say like... Or she says like, it's your reckoning day, your day of reckoning.
It's your day of reckoning.
And he just goes, I've been waiting for this.
It is... Oh my God, I got
bone
goosies.
chilling. He's like, I knew this was coming. And she goes into this man's house.
And you can tell immediately he feels remorse.
He has remorse. He's like, it's like how I would imagine if someone like murdered someone and was living with this guilt where you're like pacing, like you can't sleep. Like he has this like energy in him of just guilt and shame and fear and remorse and like... And it's revealed to us that he was the lawyer who defended Al in the case against him when Nina said he raped her.
He says, like, I did thousands of cases like that for young men of rich families. And this is all stuff that, like, really happens. We look at the Brock Turner case, etc. Like, if you guys are interested in media like this, you should read Know My Name by Chanel Miller. It is one of my favorite books ever. Talks about the justice system and how it like continuously fails victims of sexual assault
women
and like excuses perpetrators of it.
Yeah.
And this is the exact quote from the lawyer, Monroe's lawyer. Al Monroe is his full name. You know, I got a bonus for every settlement out of court. I got another bonus for every charge dropped. We all did. There was a guy, his only job was to go through all their social media accounts for any compromising information. He contacted old friends, past sexual partners. Oh, you'd be amazed how much easier it is now with the internet to dig up dirt. In the old days, we used to go through a girl's trash. Now, one drunk photo at a party. Oh, you wouldn't believe how hostile that makes a jury. God, I got goosies.
I did too.
And he says
because
it
it's so
in this,
true.
He says it in this way where you can tell he's been so close to this for so many years and had to quit because it was getting to him.
Which is kind of like, thank God someone in this movie has an ounce of empathy or remorse. It's really refreshing. And I don't think it's like a point in the movie where it's painting a man as a good guy. I think it's still showing how fucked up this world, this society, this legal system is in such a brilliant way, because it's like it's giving you a little bit of relief as the audience. It's not like
the movie is kind of unrelenting.
That's true. It is quite unrelenting, but it is like it's a nice. I don't know. It was a nice change of speed.
It was a good moment in the film to be like, oh, someone cares.
Yeah,
good. You know.
And isn't there a moment after that where he's like crying into her lap, and she's kind of like
she has to comfort him, even though he's done the bad thing. And I was thinking a lot about like. Everyone says like, oh, it's just my job. It's just my job. But if everyone quit the horrible jobs they had, like the world would be a better place.
Yeah.
Once she leaves the lawyer's house, there was a man standing outside and he's like, should I go inside? And she's like, no, don't go inside. And so you don't know what the man was going to be sent to do, but he's like, well, I still get paid. And she's like, yeah, but you can tell she's hired someone for something, and we don't know what yet.
Like kill him, beat him up. Yeah, so she's like, she is very calculated. She's ready. She has this man outside. Also, like, imagine that guy got violent. Maybe he could have, you know, like there's so much thought put into these things that she's doing, and her saying no is showing she is satisfied and content with his level of remorse. Like that's what she's looking for in these people.
Exactly.
Is remorse and
you
guilt.
Can tell she didn't get it from Madison or from Dean Walker.
But he like passed her test essentially. So then she's driving. Oh God, where's this girl gonna go? Goes to a house. A woman comes outside. It's Nina's mom.
And this is where you're like learning that Nina has committed
Passed
suicide.
Away. Yeah.
And it's been obviously destroying Cassie.
Destroying her. And even the mom is like, Cassie, please let this go. You're making it harder for all of us. And we don't know how many years. I do too. We don't know how long it's been, but she's 30, so we can imagine like 5+ years, right? And it's just like, you have so much empathy for Cassie because Can you imagine your best friend?
You can tell she's almost like going crazy because she's like, why is no one
cares, no one's remembering, and she's like,
no one is angry like
no one's angry enough.
It really is. The movie makes you feel like whoever's not angry is not paying attention.
Literally.
Like, it makes you feel so angry. We were seething the entire
for
time.
days. Like, it's like, it is literally infuriating, and it is that these men get to just walk free and live their lives, and this woman is dead, and Cassie's entire life is also fucked.
Cassie's like dead inside. You can tell she's just not excited about anything.
Her life is just kind of over. And there was a moment with Dean Walker where she's like, well, it would have ruined their lives. And Cassie's like, but it didn't ruin Nina's life and my life. Like, it's just so in your face, this message that like the victim is, it is just a traumatizing experience.
And this entire time we've been like getting little scenes of her and Ryan, who's Bo Burnham's character, they're like dancing in pharmacies. They're having a good time. You can tell like she really likes him. They're in bed one day and he's like, I think I'm falling in love with you. And she's like, I think I'm falling in love with you. Like, they have really been progressing. And one day he comes over to her parents' house for dinner and everyone is joking around, having a good time. And after Ryan leaves, the dad says to Cassie, he's like, you know, Nina was like a daughter to us. Like, I miss her every day, but I missed you too. And you can tell the parents are seeing that she's coming back alive in her relationship with Ryan.
And you can also tell that when Nina died, a part of Cassie died too, which is totally relatable if you have a best friend. Like, can you fucking imagine?
Oh my God, I can't.
Like, it's just so devastating, that scene. And you are rooting for her and Ryan. It's so tragic. It's so sad. You're so sad for Cassie and you're rooting for her.
But you also understand why she is so angry.
And it's weird because almost a part of you also wants to be like, Cassie, like, let it go, live your life. But like, how could you? Like, how can you let that go? It's so horrible. So like, Nina's mom is telling her to move on. Her parents are telling her to move on. Everyone's telling her to move on. And maybe she's getting to a point where like she did these things and she's like, okay, now I can let it go, right? She gets home. Madison is waiting for her, looking distressed. And Cassie's like, what, Madison? Like, that was like a one and done. She doesn't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
And Madison's like, I'm just, you know, did anything happen like that day? Like, I was just kind of drunk and I don't remember. Do you remember anything happening?
I woke up and there was like a man in my room and like
I'm freaking out.
She
like,
was
I'm freaking out. Like, she's like very like transparent about the fact that like, I am freaking out. I was drunk. I don't remember.
I need you to tell me everything you remember about me, about that man. Like, what happened?
Because mind you, she's like married with kids.
And we as the audience still don't know why she sent that man up.
We don't know what happened either.
Know. Yeah.
And does she just blatantly tell her in that moment?
Then this was all happening outside, so they go inside her house and you can tell like Madison's looking around. It's like a very awkward scene.
It's very uncomfortable.
And the way they're sitting is like they're not friends.
And it's so almost gratifying because Madison just made this huge deal about like, well, Nina was drunk, so who fucking cares? So it's kind of like you don't want to be like victim blaming or happy for something bad happening to a woman, but it is so obvious. Like, it's so easy to say something until it happens to you.
And that's when you learn, because Cassie's like, nothing happened. The man did not touch you.
He didn't touch you.
So then you're like, okay.
She literally goes, oh my God, thank God. Thank God. And then she's like, I have something for you. And I think she says like, but if I give this to you, I want you to promise to never contact me again. I never want to hear from you again.
Oh my God, I got goosies again.
And Cassie says, okay. She pulls out this phone. It's like a BlackBerry, so it's like an older phone. And she's like, there's a video. I found a video.
There's a video of Nina being
assaulted. The assault was recorded. It was passed around. And she's like,
so this is how Cassie learns that not only was it recorded, it was passed around. People in medical school. Oh, another thing we completely forgot to mention, Al, who everyone keeps talking about and like is obviously the rapist, is an anesthesiologist.
Oh yeah, that was when I paused the movie because Malik had this big reaction. I was like, wait, sorry, can you explain to me? I don't get it. But like a man who is
putting people under
Yeah, a man who is like drugging girls or getting them drunk and assaulting them maybe shouldn't have access to a medicine that is making people unconscious.
Oh my God, I got chills again.
And like honestly, the statistics about things that happen to women in
like the
surgeries,
fact that men can't work at morgues without a woman present.
Can you believe it? Or isn't it only illegal in certain states that a man can't unconsensually perform a pap smear on a patient when she's under? Like there are like literally fucking sane things that happen in this world. So that part, it was such a it's such a small detail, but it's so painting the picture of this world that we live in, that these are the kinds of people that are doing these things.
It's like, oh, he had such a promising future. His future is literally making people unconscious. Like, shouldn't this be a huge red flag that he did this? I don't know. It's
right.
Like, just so
insane.
Oh,
insane.
Can't believe we almost forgot
and like
about
the
that.
accusations existed against him and he still got that job.
I have a friend in med school, and before we ever watched this movie, had gone out for drinks, and she was telling us about how horrible and insane it is because all these guys who are studying to become physicians and have access to our bodies and like we trust our physicians, you know, like some of them, she was like, I would never want a guy like that around my daughter.
Yeah,
which is like, oh cool, great that we're letting them have control of our body. Like that's good, freaking awesome. That's right,
great. So then Madison says, first of all, she's like, honestly, I would not recommend watching it. It's really hard to watch. And she says, I can't believe we used to think this was funny. They used to pass it around like it was a joke, like it was funny. And again, so realistic. Even like when you're in high school and someone's nudes get leaked or whatever and everyone's like, ha ha ha. It's like not fucking funny. It is not funny. And of course, Cassie, who can't help herself, Madison leaves. She's like, please never contact me again. Immediately pulls out the phone and starts watching it.
And we were like, why is she watching it?
Why would you watch it? Like, we're both like, stop. And you can see on her, oh
my God. She's a Brill actress.
Brill. Like, so good. Guys, this is when I fear something really bad happens that you're not going to want to see coming. Cassie's watching the video, the horrors over her face. Like, and you're thinking that the horror of the scene is that she has to watch her best friend get assaulted to the point that leads her to kill herself. But then we hear a voice behind the camera who's recording it. And it's Ryan, Bo Burnham. And he has such a distinct voice that immediately we looked at each other and we're like, no. And
this was another incredibly hard scene to watch because the audio is so clearly someone being assaulted.
And it's so, again, realistic. Like, I don't know.
And all the guys, like the stuff they're saying, the way they're laughing, it's just so. Do you remember the day after we watched that? We were walking around kind of disgusted at all men. It was like freaking me out.
I feel like I'm a fucking gazelle and there are lions everywhere and I have to just act normal. Like I'm not supposed to freak out. Like what the fuck? It makes me so mad. And I love that this movie shows, like, I don't want to say all men, but it's like, I love that Ryan wasn't assaulting her, but he was recording it.
So not even just complicit, like like a participant.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like I love that. That was such an interesting choice because you are just as bad. You are disgusting. Like literally disgusting. And
it makes me think a lot about how like they're building up the story where it's gonna be like, is he the love of her life? But no, Nina was the love of her life.
Yeah, right. And
like,
she lost
romance
her.
was not the savior.
Right.
Like romance with a man was not going to be this beacon of hope. It wasn't going to be the lighthouse.
Totally.
You know?
And also something I loved is like, I felt like what they were doing with all of these decisions is making you fall in love with Ryan. You're loving him. You're rooting for him.
He's singing to her.
He's like in the pharmacy singing Paris Hilton, like so cute, so charming, so earnest. Like you're like, oh, I love this man.
Very good guy.
And it almost sets you up to, I mean, I didn't feel this way, but I'm sure someone would like want to be like, well, he was only filming it. Or just give him the benefit of the doubt or excuse him in some way, because that is so often the experience in society. We are so preened to give men an excuse and benefit of the doubt. No matter like anything we can grab onto to like excuse them from the fucking horrible things they're doing. So it's like, it's just so perfect. The little Bo Burnham touch right there. I mean, it was like the most fucking
heart-wrenching
twist, but it was so good. And then poor Cassie, right? She thinks she found the one good guy. And she had to, it was just.
And there's a scene of her like pacing in the park, like looking like she's about to vom.
Yeah.
And clutching her necklace, her half-heart necklace, like with dear might. Like you can tell is just like the worst thing in the world that happened to me is now coinciding with the one good thing in my life. It's just
in years
insane.
It's insane. It is just horrible. And then doesn't she go right to his workplace? Isn't that the next scene?
And he's like, I'm working. And she's like, I need to talk to you. He's like, I'm working. They go in a room, close the door.
She's like, I have a video I want you to watch. He's like, okay. She's showing it to him. He's like, Cassie, what is wrong with you? Why are you, this is horrible. Why would you make me watch this? Then you hear his voice and his face drops. And isn't he like, I was a kid. Like
He immediately goes, I was a kid. You know who else was a kid?
Nina. And also, would you call being 24 a kid? I wouldn't.
Oh, another thing, can't stress enough. He's a pediatrician.
Yeah.
All around his office, there are drawings that kids have made of him. Ryan, like little stick figures.
That was such a brilliant touch, too, to be watching that video in this room. Oh, my God. Makes me sick to my stomach. And, like, immediately his first thought or his first, like, impulse is to defend himself. I was a kid. This was so long ago. What is wrong with you? Why do you have this?
And he doesn't apologize, but he says, you have to forgive me.
Forgive me. I'm a good person.
He demands it.
He demands it. He doesn't beg. He doesn't ask for it. He demands. And that is, again, a theme of these men refusing to look at themselves in the fucking mirror and take any accountability.
And it's the idea of like, you're only sorry because you were caught.
Exactly. And he's not sorry. He just, and it's always the, I'm a good person. I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. Please, you have to forgive me. Forgive me.
She basically is like, I have this video and I will send it to everyone you know unless you tell me where Al's bachelor party is, because she learns from Facebook that he is marrying a bikini model, which was like, again, great touch. And he's kind of like, his life is going perfectly. Like,
his life is perfect.
He is this like well-renowned anesthesiologist and has this like gorgeous wife.
Gorgeous wife, making money, friends, his college is like,
everything is going well.
Everything's perfect for him.
And so she's like, give me the address of his bachelor party, and then I won't send this around. And if you warn him I'm coming, I'm going to send the video around. So she like blackmails him.
And even he writes it down, he gives it to her, and he's like, wait, I don't think I can live with this. Like, he like has so much anxiety. He's like, you need to tell me you forgive me or you're not going to send this out. And I think she's like, maybe. And then she leaves. And it's like, good. Fuck you, Ryan. Ugh. So then we assume she's going to the bachelor party. I think actually the next scene is her driving with the wig on.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
She's in this like little nurse costume.
With this like
very
rainbow.
stripper-esque. Yeah.
And I don't know the symbolism of the rainbow thing. It maybe is just that she has this like wounded inner child or something, but she's like the rainbow nail, she wears this rainbow wig, she has her little nurse's outfit on, she has this look on her face, and the makeup that she wears every time she's like her vigilante,
big bold red lip.
And
in this scene is the first time we see her like kind of nervous driving to this secluded cabin in the woods. And she gets there and she knocks on the door. The guy who opens it is Schmidt from New Girl. Another beloved good guy.
It is
famously
brilliant casting. All of Hollywood's like nice guy, feminist, women love him.
The people we give BOD. It's also insane that like every guy in Hollywood who's like, I'm a feminist, people are like, oh my God, my king, like my perfect king.
Literally.
And women will like have one kind of strange interview where they're not like the kindest ever, and people are like, I always knew she was a bitch diva.
I always hated her. Her.
Okay,
wait,
good.
can I talk about something really quick side note now that we're on the topic? This like, so think about Cody Ko, like the Cody Ko of it all, right? He was such a beloved male on the internet.
Absolutely.
And I think about him every single time there is a woman that is canceled, specifically an influencer, like if we keep it in that sphere. I think about Michaela, whatever her, however you pronounce her last name. Immediately, I always hated her. She's always had something off about her. I knew it. Cody Ko, it comes out and it's like, oh, it's just so hard for me to stop watching his videos. Oh, he's just my comfort person. I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know how that happened. Like, the comment section.
Like, oh, but he just had a child.
It is insane. It is so perfect, this movie, because all of us do it.
And especially if, like, women are having like a big thing happen, like an engagement or marriage, even more people will descend like vultures. Versus when a man does it and has a kid, it's like, oh, but he's a new father. Yeah.
And people change and things happen. It's just like, it's fucking sickening. It makes me sick to my stomach. So yeah, it's Schmidt from New Girl. He opens the door and they're so perfectly acting like men at a bachelor party. Like, oh, the stripper's here.
Like, who invited her? Who invited her? And
immediately the guy who's getting married, Al, he's like, guys, who ordered a stripper? I'm gonna get in trouble. It's really interesting. The whole time he's very like worried about his fiance, which I think is actually perfect writing again, because these men are not outwardly walking around being like, fuck bitches and sluts. They're like, oh my God, I love my fiance. Oh my God, I'm a feminist.
And yes, he says like, I'm a gentleman. He says stuff like that. And I think it is really interesting because when we think of assault and rape and like when we're talking to like guys in our life about it, they're always like, oh, well, I'm not one of them. So they have to show these like really everyday, like quote unquote good guys as these perpetrators
to drive
because
the point
that
home.
Is the truth. That is the reality.
That is I loved that he was so like, guys, we can't have the stripper. Like, I don't remember her name.
He's not like stern about it. He's not like, guys, send her home. He's kind of like, nah, guys, she can't find out. And all the bros are
was a bit spooked in the beginning.
Yeah.
And Schmidt especially was like, oh my God, dude, chill. They're clearly the two best friends. And he's like, oh my God, it's your bachelor party. No one will know. We're in the woods. It's fine. He's like, what, are you not going to pay the poor girl? Come on, get a dance. Like, it's fine. So then she is like putting on her nurse gloves, like doing her little thing. And she's like, okay, everyone, get on your knees in front of me. And she takes a bottle of vodka and is pouring it in all of their mouths. Okay. And they're loving it. They're lapping it up. They're thinking this is so hot and sexy. And then she's like, I take it you're the groom. And he says, yes, I am. And she says, come upstairs with me. And at first he's all no. And they're like, come on, bro, do it. And he's all smugly walking up the stairs. It's not like it was not consensual. Yeah. He was like willingly going up the stairs, kind of like winking at them, you know. And then they're alone in the attic. She shuts the door.
And there's a big bed. She puts him on the bed and she starts handcuffing him with these like pink fuzzy handcuffs.
And he's like, wait, I don't know you. I'm a little uncomfortable. And she's like,
oh, this is more for my safety.
Yeah, she's like, guys get a little handsy during the private dance.
And he's like, okay. No, I love my wife.
I'm a gentleman. I'm a gentleman. She's like, just for my safety. He's like, fine.
And she even says, she's like, sometimes the people who are gentlemen are the worst offenders.
I love when she said that. That was the first time it was like very on the nose, like, thank you. That's what the whole movie has been saying. He's handcuffed. He's all like, ha. She's putting on her gloves. And he says, what's your name?
Yeah.
And she says,
Nina Fisher.
And
he is immediately
shook.
Yeah.
He's like, this is a fucking joke. Who set you up?
Yeah. He's like, did Joe do this? He's like thinking one of his bros is like pranking him.
As if this is a funny prank, mind you. Like, that's insane in and of itself. And she's like, why are you having such a reaction? My name is Nina Fisher. You must be mistaking me for someone else. I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like getting increasingly freaked out by that.
And he's like, no, Nina Fisher is dead. And she's like, must be a common name. Like really kind of letting him sit and stew in the discomfort. And eventually he's like so spooked. And she's like, I went to med school with you guys. I'm Cassie. You probably didn't notice me because I wasn't very popular. And he is freaking out. He's yelling, like wanting one of his guys to come. He's
yelling for help. And she goes, oh, I learned from you guys how easy it is to put something in a drink.
Yeah.
Insinuating whatever the vodka bottle that she was pouring in all their mouths, like they're all passed out. No one's going to help you. You're alone. And he's like, oh, fuck. And then she's taking out this like medical box.
Yeah. She picks up a scalpel and starts walking over to him and climbs on top of him and is about to like, and this is the first time she's ever been like shown to start to be violent or anything like that.
Yeah.
She's about to touch.
Well, and she says something, oh, it was so powerful and I'm going to butcher it. I don't remember the exact verbiage, but it was like, if I didn't say the name Nina, I don't think anyone would have for years. Like I'm the last person and I want it written all over you.
Yes, and it is so insane because no one this entire movie has really been talking about Nina.
No one's angry.
Which is like so dehumanizing. Other than that one little photo of her, we don't see her as a viewer. We don't know anything about her. She was a promising young woman. And she has this whole monologue before she even climbs on top of him where she was like, Nina was so smart, so bright, so full of life, until one day she wasn't. One day it was just you all over her. That part, oh
my God,
we're both like crying watching it.
And she's like, so you should be the one with her. And that's so fucking true. These men are not walking around carrying these accusations the way that women walk around after they've been assaulted, after like literal life has been taken from them.
Even think about pregnancy.
Right.
Like a man just gets to go do that and like continue with his life, and a woman is forever changed.
I'm so fucking mad right now. I'm so mad. I feel like I'm gonna cry. That is so upsetting, and it's so unfair, and it's so perfectly done. And I loved that concept that like her whole life was like taken over by you, so you are gonna have her name all over you. And she has the scalpel as if she's gonna like, I imagine, like carve her name into his chest. Were you thinking the same thing?
I was thinking the same thing.
And he's like screaming, crying, not crying, but like yelling and struggling. And then one of the handcuffs breaks, which of course we were talking, and like if it's like a like sex shop handcuff, they're not.
I was like, why did it break?
Right, they're not exactly like proper
sturdy
professional like police grade handcuffs, obviously, right? And men are violent and scary, and so now he has a bit of control in this as well. So he's like taking the handcuff from her, the scalpel, he's grabbing her hand, and he pushes her down and gets on top of her
and covers her face with a pillow
and puts his knee on the pillow
and starts to suffocate her.
And she's struggling. She's
struggling. And me as a viewer, I'm thinking, no way.
She's going to get away. She's going to escape.
She's going to escape.
It's a movie. She's the main character. That never happens.
You can't just like kill off.
You can't kill the main character.
So I'm like, guys, like everyone chill out.
It's fine, but mind you, it's a one shot. There's not cuts. There's not changes of the angle. It's one shot.
2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes. We're watching her struggle for quite a while, and you're like waiting for this, oh, she's going to grab something. Oh, he's going to change his mind. Because mind you, okay, self-defense is one thing, right? If he was trying to get out, trying to defend herself, she's probably like passed out, fainted. But no, he keeps going for 2.5 minutes, which we've watched like interviews of the writer-director. And she said that she asked someone and they said that 2.5 minutes is how long it takes to suffocate someone. So they made you as a viewer sit and watch her
and
be
it
suffocated.
Goes to show like you have moments to think in that 2.5 minutes.
Right.
Is this really what I want to do?
Is this what I want to do? Yeah, he really sits in it. And she said people in the original screening of this got so uncomfortable and they got in a fight during this part. And she was like, yeah, it's not supposed to be easy or fun to watch. That's the point. Like these things that are happening. And I love when she said in the interview, why do we watch movies of women getting murdered all the time? But this one, people have such an issue with watching her get murdered. And it's just like so
true. It is deeply graphic, I will say.
It's very, very, very hard to watch.
I was going to vomit the toy again during this part.
Really hard to watch. And then you sit and watch him process what just happened and what he just did. And he's very upset. And also he's still handcuffed, so he can't get up. He can't escape.
He's one handcuff to the bed.
And you watch the sun like rise or go down and come back up. So it insinuates the night passed. He's still sitting there crying, freaking out. And Schmidt comes up and is like, hey guys, what happened up here? Must have been a crazy night. You didn't come down. And then he sees Cassie laying. And Al is like, she's dead. I killed her. She's dead. And he's like, you're crazy. You're so silly goofy. Hey, babe, wake up. Honey, time to go. Wake up.
And they show her arm drained of color. And he starts to realize
she's really dead. And he's like, what the fuck? And immediately he's like, you're a good person. You're a good person.
He says to Al, quote unquote, you did nothing wrong.
You did nothing wrong. Yeah.
And it made me think so much about how like men always have each other's backs. Women don't, by the way. Like
no, they don't. They don't. And you know that's exactly how he talked to him after he was accused of raping Nina. You did nothing wrong. You're a good guy. You're a good person. Like immediately.
Buttering him up. Like,
and he's like, are you sure? Yes, you did nothing wrong. And he's like taking this in as truth. You're right. I did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Self-defense.
No one will know.
Like, no one needs to know.
Well, he says like, we'll tell everyone she left.
Because remember he said, am I going to go to prison? He's like, no one needs to know this happened. We don't know this girl. We're in the middle of the woods. So it's insinuated that Mr. Schmidt is going to take care of this. Okay. Next thing we know, we're in the middle of the woods. There's a fire. And you see an arm coming out of the fire, and he just kind of kicks it back in.
So they burned her body.
And then later when we see the ashes, there's the half-heart necklace.
Which says Nina. It says
Nina.
It
says Nina, and Nina said Cassie. So then, like, okay, Cassie's dead. And we see her parents filing a missing person report, being interviewed by the police. They're like, is this normal? And they're kind of like, her dad is like, well, she's been acting a little weird. And mom's like, don't say that. No, we need to find her. Because the mom knows any little thing that could put blame, the police officers are going to run with. They don't give a fuck about women.
Yeah.
So she's like, no, this is not normal. We need to find her. And then the police officer goes to Ryan's house at work because the parents are like, she had a boyfriend. And like, that is like in
of course
criminal cases, it's always like the spouse, significant other, right? They go to visit Ryan's workplace, and Ryan is freaked out because he's thinking, oh my God, Cassie sent the video in and I'm about to get arrested.
Yeah.
And so he's acting so suspicious. Like,
the male police officer is giving him so much benefit of doubt. Okay, he's a doctor. He's well respected in community.
He's like, and these signs of the kids are so cute.
He even says like, hey, the dad said she was a little unstable. So it is clear that the men are only listening to the other men.
Right.
Right. The dad said she was unstable. Ryan said she didn't really know what he was up to.
So let's believe him. Yeah, it's like, and like literally anyone who is investigating a crime could have said, that man's acting weird. But because he's a man, it's like, hey, bro, don't worry about it. I get it. Like, women are crazy. She probably ran away. The dad said so. So must be true, right? So again, like, perfect example of just men getting away with fucking everything and getting BOD always. And then Ryan has like when they say she's missing, does he give the address? I don't know. No, he doesn't. He's like, I don't know where she could be. It was a work thing, right?
And then the next scene is Al's wedding to the bikini model. And of course Ryan is there. Ryan's a little shifty because he's kind of putting two and two together of like, I know she went to the bachelor party, and then I know she's missing, and I know that like the video hasn't been sent out, but it could drop at any moment.
Right, living with that. But I'm sure all of them, like, is this in focus at all? That's good. I don't know. I'm sure all of them had this sense of relief when she was dead. Like, because I was reading about it, and that could not be considered self-defense. He didn't need to kill her. He did not need to kill her. But I'm sure there was a sense of like, make this go away. The Nina shit, all of it, I don't want to hear it ever again. And Cassie was kind of the only person who was still talking about it. So I'm sure they had this sense of like, whew, done with that.
The dean didn't care. No institution cared.
No one cares. So it's like, okay, it's over. Happy wedding day. Everyone's there. They're in their suits. The wife is looking beautiful. It's a gorgeous day. And I thought this is how it was going to end. Which would be very realistic. And
then there is this montage of scheduled texts that Ryan starts receiving. And at the same time, we see that before Cassie had died, she'd given a hard drive with the videotape to the lawyer and said, if I go missing, I had gone to this location
with these men.
They were responsible for my death, and I want you to take this video, distribute it, and ruin their lives.
Yep.
So she had kind of known going into this situation would be very dangerous for her.
Which makes sense because Cassie was obviously a very calculated and smart girl. And again, I'm sure every single time she did this like stunt with men, she knew there was a risk of them getting violent and killing her because men do that. Like men are violent and men kill women. So I think this was obviously like being isolated in the woods is like the most extreme. And she was so outnumbered that it was very possible, but we did watch an interview and the director said she was not on a suicide mission. Like this wasn't the goal. It was just her planning ahead just in case. So, and I also love that like it's almost kind of her way of giving this lawyer
a chance to redeem himself.
Exactly. Exactly.
And let go of the guilt.
And do
maybe.
the right thing.
Yeah.
Do the right thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of sweet in a way, I suppose.
Yeah, and then so the police show up to the
wedding.
wedding.
You hear the police sirens and Schmidt starts running. Yeah. It's so, but like kind of in this way, it's funny. It's like almost funny.
Really goofy.
It's goofy. And Bo Burnham's like, they're all like, oh my God. And the poor wife is like, what's happening? She has no idea. No idea. And then they're like, hey, we're here for the death of Cassie, like you're under arrest.
And behind you can hear the dad of Al be like, we'll do whatever it takes, we'll get you out. And like the thing is, they will. He's gonna serve like a couple years.
Totally. And we've been talking, this is so long, like what do we do, because we have so much to say. Whatever. We were talking about like alternate endings that we would have done. And
we haven't told each other yet.
We haven't told each other yet.
But I honestly like hated the second half of the movie. I was feeling really sick to my stomach. But I do think that like I get why the director had the murder scene, because I don't think law enforcement would have taken it as seriously if she wasn't murdered, which is so deeply upsetting. And deeply sad.
If it was just the rape in the video, they would have got a slap on the wrist, most likely,
and been like, well, that was so long ago, you guys were kids.
There's always something. So it's like you had to go to the extreme of being murdered to get legal justice.
And here's where I want to say, like, when we were watching the movie, Madeline was like, I wonder if they named her Cassandra and it has something to do with Greek mythology. So I did look it up.
Can I say what I thought it was? Because you didn't tell me this.
Yes.
But what I thought it meant was, I know that there was a girl named Cassandra in Greek mythology who was cursed to never be believed. No one would ever believe her, but she knew the truth. That's why I know that. I'm not going to lie. I wish it wasn't, but I did feel like really a film bro in that moment where I was like, oh my God, I got that.
And Apollo punished Cassandra because she refused to have sex with him. So
You're lying.
Really
Wait, so what was the punishment? It's that no one believes her? Isn't that so brill? Brill.
I got
such little touches that are just like, makes me want to write a fucking movie. Like, oh my God, it's so good. It's so satisfying.
And I would suggest like going and listening to the writer director, like have these interviews.
Brilliant.
She's so smart and has had to make such tough choices to get a film like this. Like, granted, it was an indie film, but to get it produced and made in front of audiences, so cool.
Also, if you didn't know, she wrote and directed Saltburn as well. Like, she has such a sick and twisted mind in the best way. It's so cool. And she also said in the interview she wanted it to end at the scene where they lit her on fire and kind of insinuating they got away with it and they lived this perfectly happily ever after life. And the only reason they didn't is because the production company was like, that's so dark. It's so true, but it's so dark, we can't do that. And she's like, okay, fine. So she threw in like the little kind of final message from Cassie, which was like, okay, kind of nice as a viewer, I guess. Was I deeply depressed after?
Yes. Yeah, I was. Okay, tell me what your alternate
ending.
Tell me
yours first, because I fear I didn't really have one.
Oh, okay.
I was just excited for you because I said mine would have literally been that they just lived happily ever after, the men. I just feel like that would be the most realistic. I don't have some kind of like clever twist, but I think you do.
Okay, mine. Guys, I was so excited when I thought of this. I really thought when she got to the cabin for the bachelor party that because she's shown to be so smart and she has this like medical past, I thought she would have found some drug that basically makes their sexuality stop. Like literally the like physical embodiment of being in heat stop. So she would have given like that in the form of like vodka or something to everyone. And somehow she would have still gotten in trouble and law enforcement would have gotten her and she would have maybe been in prison.
She's the one under arrest and that's also like so infuriating because she did like one little thing but there was like that is so
I thought something like that might happen. I thought that would be really cool.
That would be so cool. That would be so cool.
Because like, of course. And then they would like flash to the rest of the men
getting married,
perfectly normal lives. Like Brock Turner has changed his name, has a job. Like he is living a completely fine life
the
under
Brock
a different
Turner case radicalized me. Like it, like that has stuck with me to this day. I think about it all the time. It's fucking disgusting. Like, ugh. I wanted to say a couple things really quickly.
Please, should we do like a quick... Oh, another thing in my notes was he was drunk is used as an excuse. She was drunk is used as a justification.
Whoa. That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. That was so well said. That was beautiful.
Thank you, my queen.
Unfortunately, I don't think the people that need to hear it will take anything away from it necessarily.
Well, that's what we were talking about. Is like, I don't know what men would think if we showed this to them, because on Reddit they are very angry.
They're very angry, and unfortunately, I think the first thing to jump to would be, "But I'm a nice guy," and that's where this movie is. You can't really say that, and I think that upsets them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Because they don't really have a defense. This pokes holes in their defense.
It pokes holes in it. Yeah, so it's really important, and I'm so glad it was made, and I never, ever want to watch it again.
Ever.
Mm-mm. I think the ending is so up in the air because it wasn't necessarily what she wanted, so I think it's fun to imagine all the different ways it could have went. So let us know if you've watched it, or even just based on what we've said, like what you think could have been a powerful ending for that film.
I would love to know.
Would love to know.
And we love you. Take care of yourselves.
We love you. Thanks for listening to us. And we see you and we hear you. And we're rallying behind you.
1, 2, 3. Mwah.